Sometimes you have to ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire. Just jump. Just start shooting. You cannot allow people to be around you who are not pushing you forward. Your dream cannot afford to have anybody pulling it backwards, even if it's somebody that you love or loves you. I love to hustle. And then the combination of those two things, if I find a game that if I play it well, I can win big and my community can benefit, there's just no better game. Hey, this is Diishan Imira, and you're listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 218. And today we're going to be hearing from Maven CEO and founder Diishan Imira. And Diishan is going to talk to us about his dream driving journey and what it was like being a kid growing up in Oakland, California, to then graduating from Hampton University and exploring the world. And his desire for exploration led him to China specifically, which is one of the most key places along his journey because it was the place that spawned his entrepreneurial endeavors and helped lay the groundwork for his company Maven, which is the largest Black-owned hair extensions company in the world. The company allows salons and stylists to retail products without having to buy or hold inventory. And the things that's really cool, and get this, to date, Maven has made over $80 million in revenue and has raised over $36 million in funding. So we're going to talk to Diishan about how this was possible, and he's going to share tips with you all that will really resonate and will help you as you're growing your own brands, growing your own businesses, or even just taking the plunge into whatever your dream is. Some of the things that we cover in this episode include the hustle gene, what it was like moving to China after college. Diishan breaks down the skill of selling, the difference between sexy versus unsexy investing, how to grow your network, why reinvention is key, and how he unwinds and takes care of himself as a busy CEO. As always, if you love this episode, please share it with a friend. I love to go on Instagram and see you guys reposting your Instagram stories, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are. Make sure you're sharing with your community. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure you're using the hashtag Dreams and Drive because I can go in and engage and really push out your own post to the larger audience as well. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to us. It really does mean a lot. And if you're not already part of our Dreams and Drive weekly newsletter, The Keys, you can sign up at www.dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, let's hear from Diishan. And also, quick thing, please forgive my audio. I thought I plugged in my mic, but I didn't. So sorry, guys. Hey, Diishan, welcome to Dreams and Drive.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you for having me.
No problem. As we were chatting before we got started today, it's funny. I think life always comes back to you, right? Life always can be full circle sometimes. So this is our second time chatting. Back in my past career as a writer for Madame Noir, I got to interview you back in the beginning days of Maven. So I'm happy that we're able to touch base again. And there's so much more to talk about now.
There is a lot has happened since the last time we talked. I think we spoke in 2015, and the business is completely different now and grown unimaginably, and we've got a lot of new exciting things to talk about.
Yeah, I also want to tell you, I don't think I told you this, but I actually just did a story on Maven for Exo Nicole because I tried the Maven install program. And
you did? Okay, good.
Yeah, and it was pretty dope just going through that whole process. So we'll definitely have to talk about that because I love what you're doing with entrepreneurs. And I got to speak with the stylist who's part of the program, and she just about it. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's go back in time,
awesome.
Right? Let's go back to Oakland, California, right? The young Diishan. Okay. What was inspiring you then?
The young Diishan, I grew up in a single parent household, and my mother was out of the house a lot. She was my mom was a doctor, and she was just getting going at the time. She was almost like never home. And my father was out of my life by the time I was 5. And so it was me and my sister were sort of on our own a lot. And so, we were like latchkey kids. So we just kind of we ran around. We were, we were I say in the streets, but I just mean we would be out as long as we wanted, kind of come back whenever we wanted. We kind of get into a little mischief here and there. I've always been super curious about finding out, like I was the kind of kid who, if there was a fence, I wanted to know what was on the other side of it. And everybody else would be like, don't go over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be like, no, we're going over the fence. We're about to go find out what it is. I think when it comes to like inspiration, I don't think I even knew when I was a kid, like what my inspiration was. But looking back, I think a lot of what I've done in my life came from watching my mom work so hard. And I learned a lot of my work ethic from watching my mother. That is for me a very big piece of my inspiration is wanting to feel like I'm putting in the same type of work that my mother put in order to like create a great life for myself and my sister.
Do you feel like you always had that hustle gene in you?
I've always had it, and I think it gets expressed in different ways. I think once high school came around, that's when I started, like the entrepreneurial gene turned on in terms of making money. I think at the root of entrepreneurship is just a sense of independence. And so I think I had that very early. And independence can get expressed in different ways. And one of the ways independence can get expressed is through entrepreneurship. And so around high school is when I started kind of getting little hustles and doing little things here and there to make money. And then I would say, like after college, I moved to China. And that's when my hustle gene just like completely took over my whole existence.
So let's talk about that.
Because in China, everybody is a hustler.
I was going to say that. Why did you even move to China? Because you were in Oakland, right? Like why? What was what was attractive to China? What was attractive about China to you at that time? It started actually my freshman year of college, and I went to Hampton University. My freshman year of college. Aren't you supposed to say no, that's not HU, that's Howard. I'm sorry. Okay, let me not get people mad at me. Okay. I'm gonna edit.
Yeah, Hampton. That's what they call the real HU.
Okay.
But I ended up going to Japan for a semester in my sophomore year of college at Hampton. And that was my first time going out of the country. That just like completely blew my mind. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to see the whole world. I just want to travel. And I was young. I was like, I'm like 19, 20 years old and having fun, just running around Tokyo, seeing new things, experiencing new things, eating food, traveling, went to Thailand, went to Bali, during that trip. And that just blew my mind open. So I wanted to see the world. And so the next summer I did another study abroad, and I went to Spain for like 2.5 months, and did the Spain thing, studied Spanish, and I was just really on a international hype, during college. Like I wanted to go see the whole world, and so when it was time to graduate, and I was a sociology major.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Really? Okay. So yeah, when I got to college, I took like a sociology class, and I loved it. And so I just became a sociology major, but I didn't really have in my mind, like, I want to be a social worker or anything. I just really liked classes where we talked about what people do, like groups of people and what they do and how they behave.
My
and that's
favorite
always
sociology class was the sociology of war. Favorite class to this day, because you just learn so much about how wars fuel nations.
I think people misunderstand like the power of like what understanding sociology is, right? Like you're at the root of it, you're understanding what drives behavior of human beings in groups. And then as an entrepreneur, I always pull from that, because that's what you're trying to impact as a business person. You're trying to understand a group of people and what motivates them and what you need to do to, ultimately, figure out from them what problem they have, solve it, create a product for that consumer to ultimately buy. groups of people always fascinated me. Culture fascinated me. And so when it was time to graduate, I had a mentor in college who ran the international studies department. And she was like, her name was April Burris. And she was like, you could go to China and teach English there. And there might be some other stuff that like business that you could get into over there. And there's a lot of stuff bubbling in China. And I literally I didn't speak one single word of Chinese, never had even considered China. And I was like, all right, let's go. I just went, and to me, it was just like, I'm just going on an adventure. And that's really all I wanted to do at the time, was just go on an adventure. I just wanted to see the world, and teaching English was going to pay for that. And so I bounced, and then I ended up in China for over a year and a half.
Were you nervous about leaving the United States to embark on this journey?
You know what? I wasn't nervous. I was excited. And people ask me that all the time. And I guess most people would be nervous, but I just wasn't nervous. And in general, I'm not very nervous to go into situations where I'm not prepared. Like I'm just, and that's one of the things I learned about myself. I'm really good on the fly, and you could drop me anywhere in the middle of anywhere, and I could figure out, I could keep a cool head, not trip, and figure out how to make a lane, no matter where I am. And and I learned that about myself, in the China thing, because I had a lot of other people that came with me, other students that came out there to teach, and they were like, I can't do this. And they cut out. But I ended up thriving there and ended up starting a business over there, and, learning how to hustle and import stuff over there. I learned Chinese, and I was there for a year and a half. And that became the foundation for everything that I still do to this day, is my China experience.
What exactly became the foundation? What were the key skills, or the key theme of the China experience that has been, that translates to everything you do today?
The exercise of going into a place where you don't know anything about the environment, you don't speak the language, and you don't know the culture, but you still have an objective. And let's say, for me, my objective was, I want to export stuff from China. You have to, your job is to understand the culture and the language, or let me say, understand the culture, and the language is part of the culture, as fast as you can and as thoroughly as you can. And it forced me to be really good at that, in trying to understand the culture around me. And I've said this before, today when I came to Silicon Valley and I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I raise money in Silicon Valley? It was the same thing for me. It was like, okay, Silicon Valley, it's like China. This is another culture. And I need to figure out how to relate to these people in this culture so that I can get to what my goal is, which is to raise money. So, for me, I think the fundamental thing is like cross-cultural communication. Mm-hmm. And that's super, super powerful, because cross-cultural communication allows you to move into different groups and access what different groups of people have and the resources that they have, not just your own group.
So when you came back to the United States, you were still doing the import and exporting? Or the exporting, well, I guess at this point it was importing, right? Because you were in the U.S. Yeah,
right. It always depends on what side you're standing on. So the first thing I actually started ever hustling with the first thing I did, I started a weekend school in China teaching English. And I had like 50 students, and I hired a couple teachers to help me teach it. And I did that. And then I got into exporting shoes. So I was like the guy over in China who was getting all the Jordans and stuff and shipping them back home. And
real ones?
They were real shoes.
Okay.
Real shoes. You know, that was like my first hustle. And that was like, you know, I'm 23 years old. And, you know, I see Jordans over there and they're like $20, $30. And I'm like, whoa, how can everybody back home want some of these? And so that was just like easy money. But that was the first thing that taught me how to start exporting. And that's what taught me about freight forwarders and shipping and, you know, supply chain
the
whole entire supply chain. So when I came back, I was still doing a little bit of that, but I had moved on to bigger and better things. And I was importing containers now of furniture. And for some reason, and I really can't even remember how we ended up doing furniture, but I moved to Miami and I was getting like these big ass sectional modern sofas. And it was like the middle of the housing bubble. And so everybody was buying condos and everybody needed furniture. And I would just go to China with like a backpack full of money. And I would go to these factories, you know, pay cash, get it loaded up with furniture, you know, get it shipped out. And then 30 days later, I'd be in Miami and I'd meet the container, get it to the warehouse. And then I would post ads on Craigslist and have people just come and pick up the sofas.
Was the profit were you making real money? Because, you know, I only say that because like looking back at it now, was the profit good? Like, was it something you do again? Because, you know, sometimes when you're younger, you don't necessarily, you might think you're making a lot of money, but it's really not. Was it a lot of money even for today's time?
It was a lot of money for a 24-year-old, you know. Okay. It was a lot of money.
Okay.
I was making a lot of money. I mean, for 24 years old and I did not have a job and I was making 6 figures off of this stuff and I'm living in Miami, it was like the time of my life.
It seemed like it could be a movie. You could have the Diishan in Miami exporting sectional sofa. Oh, I'm thinking about like people look at you like, yo, what is he doing?
Right, exactly. They're like, wait, he's got shoes for sale. He got couches for sale.
That's funny.
Yeah, I just have always like, you know, once I figured that out, it was like, well, why would I not ever have something for sale? Like, it's so easy to have something for sale and make some money selling something, you know.
But not everyone.
But a lot of people just, it's really not that mystical or hard to do, but it does require, like, you know, you got to be willing to take some chances. You got to be willing to like go try and go some places where other people aren't to figure out what you can get, you know, to sell. And then selling is just, most people just on the selling side, just, I think a lot of people are scared of rejection. So they never really develop the skill of selling. I sold stuff out the trunk of my car to strangers, you know, and that, you know, that you are in the parking lot, you know, of a grocery store, you know, so like I've seen every face that somebody could make at somebody who's trying to sell them something in the parking lot of a grocery store. And so that just doesn't affect me. And I think if you're going to be in sales and if you're going to sell something, you have to have that type of mentality.
Yeah, there's that resilience as well. On the other side of rejection is resilience. Because if you can't be rejected, you're just going to keep going.
For sure. Exactly. If rejection hurts you and just breaks you down, like you just can't, you won't survive sales. But sales is where the money is.
So let's talk about where you found out there was money, right? In the hair business. So your sister was a hairstylist and tell us about what she came to you to ask you.
At one point, you know, and I was always a guy who everybody knew as like, Diishan is the guy who could get you stuff from China, right? Because everybody knew I lived in China and I was there and I used to export all kind of stuff. So everybody would call me and say, hey, can you get this from China? Can you get that from China? And so, you know, my sister, Raina, she's a hairstylist in LA. And she asked me, can you get some hair from China? And just kind of on the fluke. And I did, and I went out there and went and got like some samples, and I brought it back to these hair salons to see if it was good quality. And they were like, yeah, can you get some more? And so that kind of started me just selling hair extensions to stylists out the trunk of my car in Oakland. I also was already accustomed to that because I also used to sell shoes like out of the trunk of my car at barbershops, right? So for me, it was already like, if you want to sell stuff, you could sell it at the barbershop or at the hair salon. You know, I started doing that, and that's what kind of opened up that whole world to me. And I started to see things in this market that, in my opinion, from my perspective, were, you know, unbalanced and unfair in a lot of ways, right? I saw that our community, you know, the Black community was spending $9 billion on hair products, but that we weren't anywhere in the value chain. We didn't sell these products. And there was a lot of structural barriers for us to even participate and be able to be in the value chain. That's where the idea for Maven stemmed from, was, wait a second, all these hairstylists they really have all the power. They have all the customers. They've got the relationship with the customers. The customers trust these hairstylists, and they'll buy what the stylists tell them to buy. And if I just give these stylists a tool to capture that sale, then we can create our own distribution channel for selling all these products, and we can participate in the economics of it. And that's where the idea for Maven came from.
Did you see it being a big tech company that it is today?
I did. That's the way that I conceived of it.
Okay.
I thought about it. I looked at it from the very beginning as the whole system is broken, and I want to fix the whole thing. I want to completely change how these products are sold. And if I do that, the size of this business will be massive. And to do that, I'm going to need to use technology to do it. And so this is going to be a scalable, you know, multi-billion-dollar market, you know, endeavor that I'm going to try and go after here. And I'm going to try to raise venture capital for it.
What was the biggest barrier in the beginning days? Because I feel like for a lot of us who are trying to launch things, there's always that one thing that we have to hurdle over in order to really get the ball moving. What was that for you?
I mean, I needed to figure out how to raise some money in Silicon Valley. You know, I already had, I think, a very good sense of hustle, and I was building the thing that I needed to build. I was selling the product. You know, I was moving the product. I was getting sales and getting revenue. But in order to really do it the way I envisioned it, it needed to be funded to do it at scale. I didn't know anybody in Silicon Valley. I didn't know how Silicon Valley worked, and I needed to figure out how to kind of break in and raise money in Silicon Valley. And at that time, I did not know anybody who was Black who had raised any money from venture capital. I just didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. So I just had to go, and on my own, I just went to every single event that I could go to in Silicon Valley to learn about how to pitch, learn about what venture capital was and what kind of investments they make and who these investors are and how do you talk about your business in Silicon Valley and how do you present your business in Silicon Valley. I had to just go learn all of that.
What was the thing that you were, when you talk about how to talk about your business, was there, like, what was the Maven pitch that was sexy to these investors?
What was sexy about the Maven pitch was that it was unsexy. So what that means is, you know, there's a lot of deals in the Valley, I think, that venture capitalists see that they look just like a lot of other venture deals. It looks like a SaaS business, you know, enterprise SaaS business, you know, it looks like a hot gaming company or, you know, something like, looks like a marketplace. And those are hot, you know, those are like trendy investments, right? Because there's like some big winners in that space. So that's where everybody's focusing and looking. And that's considered sexy. Then when you come along and you've got this business that completely is outside of the frameworks of any of those companies, of those types of businesses, people look at it as like unsexy. And then what happens is you have a group of investors that it's basically the majority that are not interested in it. But then you have a small group of people who they're looking for the thing that nobody else is looking at, right? What's sexy to them is that no one else is doing it, and that there's an entrepreneur who's very, very unique and very uniquely set up to tackle this problem where no one else is. And that's what's sexy about Maven. And so, my pitch was very much, I'm from this culture. I understand a problem that no one else here in Silicon Valley even knows exists. I have a unique background in supply chain that enables me to be able to execute on this. It's an enormous market, right? And I have proof that it's working already. That combination for an investor who isn't just looking for like what everyone else is looking for looks really, really good. And so I ended up getting some awesome investors because of that pitch.
Straight from the beginning or over time?
Over time.
Okay.
Over time, for sure. I mean, I had to learn how to pitch that as well.
Yeah.
I'm 5-6 years in explaining this thing now. So in the beginning, it was not that smooth. Right? In the beginning, I had to figure out how to really pitch. And then I think once we really got tight on how to pitch this business, started to get more traction.
A big part of the business too is the stylist, right? Because your stylists on the platform fuel the business. How did you grow your network of stylists that would be the person, they're on the front line selling the hair and getting the commissions, but
yeah.
I mean, you didn't know 50,000 stylists when you started. How did that scale?
Yeah. So the first 1,000 stylists that we got, well, let's say the first 50, I just got them on foot, right? I'm just going to hair salons and I'm walking in there and I'm like, hey, do you want to do this thing? The next 950 came where we figured out that, I don't know if you remember, but 2 Chainz had the song where he said hair weave killer. Do you remember that?
What was the name of the song though? Was that the name of the song? I remember it, but I know
actually don't remember.
About. Maybe I'll put a little
yeah.
If I could find it.
Anyway, 2 Chainz had hair weave killer, and that was the hot little phrase or whatever at the time. All the hairstylists on Instagram, they would post their work and then they would hashtag hair weave killer. So we went on Instagram and we searched the hashtag hair weave killer and thousands of stylists came up.
Wow.
And we would just go into at the time there were no DMs in Instagram because this is 2014. There were no DMs. It was just comments. And we would just go into the comments on the stylist page and I would just leave a note and say, do you want to sell hair? You don't need to buy any inventory. You just make commission. You get a free website. Email us. And then we just did that all day, leaving notes for people. And then people started hitting us up in email and then we would call them and sign them up over the phone.
Why calling them?
Because we needed to explain to them what it was, right? Okay. We were just email us to get more information. And then they email and we'd say, okay, we'll call you and tell you what it's about and then sign you up.
What was the value that you were pitching to them? What was in it for them?
It was actually pretty simple. It's, you're a hairstylist and you are installing, 20 of these weaves every single month, but you're not making any money from the actual weave. You're just making money from your service because the customer's buying it from this beauty supply store over here. You're not getting a piece of that. I'm going to make you your own website for free. It'll be a Maven website. You can have your customers buy hair from the website. You don't have to buy any inventory from Maven, so you don't have to put up any money. When your customer buys from your site, Maven will ship the hair directly to the customer. And I'm going to give you 15% of every sale. Plus, for every $600 you sell, I'll give you $100 of store credit. Wow. So for stylists, it was just right. So
that seems like a pretty darn good deal.
Yeah. So for stylists, it's a no-brainer. It's no reason I shouldn't sign up. It's not going to cost me anything. And maybe I'll make some extra money from it.
And they were, right?
Yeah.
So those first 1,000 kind of got your next 1,000, and that's how you were able to scale up from there?
Well, the stylists we just kept getting more and more hairstylists from that point. Then we started doing like paid ads that we would run to get hairstylists. And then we built landing pages for them to come in and put in their information and sign up automatically. We still called a lot of hairstylists and signed them up. So that was just how we first got the first 1,000 that kind of got us off the ground. Then we started doing more like paid acquisition marketing to get hairstylists.
Some people who start tech businesses are non-tech founders, right? Or they have these ideas for tech-based businesses, but they don't actually know how to do the tech. How do you navigate around that? Did you hire somebody to be in control?
I have a co-founder, and my co-founder was my technical co-founder. Yeah.
Okay.
And I knew him from back in the day in like 2004. We had a little business in the shoe business together. And then I reconnected with him back in 2012 when I kind of had this idea. He came on board. So he was my technical co-founder. That being said, my business itself is not incredibly tech. We didn't have to build brand new technology that didn't exist, right? We had to invent technology. We just had to piece together existing technology to support the business that we were trying to run, right? Like Maven's business essentially is just a website, like an e-commerce website that has multiple pages for every single hairstylist, right? And then there's some other things built on that are standardized e-commerce tools that you build, for your business. My co-founder actually wasn't an engineer, right? So he wasn't a guy who actually did coding, but he's more like a product guy. And depending on the type of business that you have, a product guy could be even better for you than an engineer. A product guy might be able to see the project that you're trying to build here, and then he can, for example, Taylor, my co-founder, he knew how to get these off-the-shelf tools, use some offshore engineers to just sort of build a couple little things to add to it, to customize it, and get the first MVP of it rolling and off the ground. So it depends on also what kind of business that you have as to what you would need.
So where does Maven stand today? What are you guys doing as far as in terms of numbers, and how are you feeling about how far the business has grown over these past few years?
So I think we've had a lot of great growth. The company is, we've done over $80 million in sales, lifetime to date. In the past 3 years, I would say competition in the market has gotten tougher. So there's been a lot of like cheap Chinese imports that have flooded the market, and anybody who's in the world knows hair extensions knows that all of a sudden now everybody is selling hair. While we've still been growing, the competition has gotten stiffer. And so what we've had to do here what we've done is develop a new service that goes along with our product that has made or increased the value of the proposition to the customer, by 2-3x. So
is that the Maven install program?
It is. Okay. So now what we've done is basically created a marketplace of all of our existing stylists that are searchable as a database in every single city. And if you buy hair from Maven, you can search the database of stylists. You can look at the pictures of their work, their ratings, their reviews. And if you pick any one of the Maven stylists in your area, Maven will pay for you to get your hair put in. Average hair install prices are like $200, $250. So it's an enormous savings to the customer.
And so, I actually, as we were talking about this earlier, I actually tried the Maven install program out for an article I wrote for X on Nicole. And I loved it because, number one, I'm not somebody who gets my hair. I don't get hair weave a lot because, number one, it's expensive, like you said, right? But being able to not have to worry about who's going to do my hair, I could just look through, read the reviews.
Exactly.
It's like having a burger and you get fries for free. You wanted the fries, you need the fries anyway to have a whole burger experience, right? But,
Exactly.
What I love the most about it, and what I think is smart as well, is it's not only the customer that's benefiting, it's really the stylist. The stylist that I worked with, she told me that she's gotten so many new customers just because participating in the program. So although let's say her initial, I don't know, she was just telling me like, okay, let's say although she may be losing on the upfront of how much her normal charge would be for a weave install, she's just getting so many more new clients, and she's able to market to them afterwards, that it all makes sense.
Yeah. And that's really what we wanted to create. What we discovered that we could do with our hairstylist base is basically say to them, you have a certain amount of excess capacity here that you could be filling, like with extra clients. And Maven can help you do that. And so I can fill these extra seats for you. And will you give me a discount? Because I'm going to pay for all these customers to come get their hair done from you. Will you give me a discount? And so the stylists are like, well, this is like, I'm not making any money during this time, right? The seat's empty. It just makes sense. Like, yeah, give me some more customers and I'll give you a discount. So we essentially take on the marketing cost for bringing new clients to stylists, right? And so the stylists are making more money. The customer is able to now get, their like the best hair they can get at the best possible price, more affordably than anywhere else they could shop, right? With the best customer service and also the added convenience of helping you find a hairstylist and making that process super easy for you. So, with this new thing, we feel like we've really increased value for customers, like 3x of what the normal experience is for buying hair and having to get your hair done. What we found is that like customers have been having like amazing experiences. Close to 90% of all the customer ratings are 90% are 5-star.
Wow.
So, and 95% are 4-star and above. So less than 5% of all of them are anything lower than 4 stars. And then what we'll do over time is like any stylists that are not getting great stars, we're going to flush them out of the system and bring in new stylists.
Okay.
So that over time, the pool of stylists will get better and better and better and better.
So why is that reinvention and that constantly thinking about how you can make your product even better so important for any dream driver listening in?
You can't be complacent. There's always somebody who, especially if you're successful, is seeing your success and they're thinking about how they can come and take some of it from you. And that's called competition, right? And you have to expect that. And the world moves really fast nowadays. Things can change really quickly. You have to keep your thumb on the pulse of what's happening. And if you don't, you could find yourself, upside down kind of really quickly. So you have to have a sort of mentality of like, I'm always competing. I always need to stay ahead. I need to predict and be more predictive of what's gonna happen so that I can innovate before I'm underwater and be ready for the changes that are coming. So, and as like a CEO, that's your job. Your job is to be looking out over the water and looking out with the little telescope and seeing where the icebergs are, and where the passageways are so that you can guide your team ahead of time and innovate to be ready for whatever is happening. And that's how you stay ahead.
I think that's perfect imagery. And it's funny because you're talking about being that captain looking out for icebergs. And the imagery that was in my head was like you're on a roller coaster, right? And you're at the top of the roller coaster. And so you mentioned earlier that you, one of the things that you like about yourself, you learned about yourself, is that you don't get nervous in situations where others may. What is that thing, though, that gets you nervous? That thing that could potentially, either have you going further up the roller coaster or the thing that could make you go down that roller coaster? Because we all have those one.
What gets me nervous?
Yeah.
I get nervous. Okay, so I'm not trying to say I don't get nervous. So I'm just trying to think about what really gets me nervous. Well, I mean, I get anxious a lot.
Okay.
Right? I can get anxious a lot. Like, there's a lot of times when as a founder here, I don't get a good night's sleep because I can't sleep about stuff. Those things are really more about like worrying about performance, right? And worrying about the future a little bit too much. Saying like, here's my plan, here's what we're going to do. And then worrying whether or not, is this thing okay? Is this thing over here going to break? Like, what's going on with my employees? Like, shit, this problem over here might bubble up and like, damn, like this is happening. And I don't know if that makes sense as like what makes me nervous.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I think sometimes trying to like being too caught up in thinking about the future.
So how do you then
can get me into a very anxious state.
So then for any founder, I think this is important. How do you take care of yourself then? So, you're busy, you're running a business, you're always in meetings, what's that thing that you do to kind of center yourself?
I'll take a vacation by myself and I'll go to Hawaii for the weekend and I'll just kind of like do nothing and look at the beach. I do that somewhat frequently and that maybe sounds like kind of decadent, but I have a very, I would say like I don't have a very decadent rest of my life. Like I don't have a bunch of fancy stuff. I don't spend a lot of money on fancy clothes and big house and all that stuff. I love freedom. So all my extra discretional income goes towards like, I would rather take a trip and be at a beach than have a super nice watch. And for me, that stuff carries me so much further. Like to just have extra money because I didn't spend it on like bullshit to be able to go eat really nice food, because it just makes me feel good, or go to Hawaii for the weekend and for 3 days and come right back. Those are the type of things that I do for myself to keep me sane. And sometimes I like to go to a movie. Like I'll duck into a movie. I'm like notorious for going to movies by myself. I just like throw my hoodie on and go into a movie and just try to zone out and just like not think about anything going on. I'm trying to like get into meditating.
It's hard. I'm just not there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hella hard. And I'm still trying. I'm trying to get into that. I tried yoga, a few weeks ago. I actually really liked it. So now I'm trying to see, okay, maybe I could put a yoga, in my schedule. But yeah, and I think it's something that you have to always be trying to chase and optimize. Is like, okay, how do I really relax myself and how I really put myself in a zone?
What are you doing this for? What's driving you? I think when I had guests, it's actually funny. My first guest in the show told me he's pursuing his dream of music for the love of a woman, right? He's like,
what?
We were young. It's 2016. He was young too. But that's what he said, right? Some people say they're doing this for their family. They're doing this because they believe in the mission of their company and what they're building. What are you doing this all for?
I want to contribute. That's a very big part of it. And I want my community to, be proud of me for what I've contributed, and also then for my own like selfish reasons, I just love the adventure. I just love the game. I love trying to like hustle and figure out this crazy shit every single day and playing for a big trophy. So I really just love the game. I love to hustle. And then the combination of those two things, if I find a game that if I play it well, I can win big and my community can benefit, to me, there's just no better game to be playing. I do it for the excitement and I do it for the love of my community and my culture.
And the last question I want to ask you is, I don't think we referenced this directly throughout the interview, but how does you being a Black man, right, in the hair care business, like, why is this so important? Or how do you see your role as a Black man in what you're doing as a founder? Just overall. I know that's a really big question, but you can take it in whatever direction. You can take it in whatever direction you want to. But how do you see you as a Black man impacting the impact?
My customers, the partners that I have in terms of like the hairstylists to Maven are primarily all Black women. And so what I see my role is just creating a space, creating a tool and a space, Black women to use and for there to be as powerful as they possibly can be. To me, like, Black women possess this amazing power that permeates throughout the entire world, through culture, through business, through language, through movement, through everything, but don't get the value assigned that they should. And so what I'm doing is just creating something for our community to use to express all of its power and create a space for all of that power to go even further than it is today. That's kind of how I see it. I think Black women should be running the world. And so hopefully if I could create a tool that helps them do it, I think everybody's going to be better off.
Well, that's a great way to end our conversation. Thank you so much. Let's just go into our lightning round really quickly, okay? If you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
You have to have honesty with yourself. So to me, that means you have to really try your hardest to know who you are and authentically, and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and where you fit. And don't try to go outside of that. So that's like, to me, it's like be really honest with yourself about who you are, and don't deviate from that. You need to be relentless about surrounding yourself with people that support your dreams, and vicious about cutting people out who do not. You cannot allow people to be around you who are not pushing you forward. You cannot afford that. Your dream cannot afford to have anybody pulling it backwards. Even if it's somebody that you love or loves you, you still need to put that person outside of the reach of your dreams. And the reverse of that is you need to make sure you go out of your way to find people to put around you who will support your dream and educate you, and teach you, right? So you need mentors and stuff like that. And then the third, I think, maybe goes back to the sales stuff. You need to jump, and you need to be fearless in pursuing your dream. You cannot let fear take over. Because fear will have. What's that?
No, I'm saying it's so hard. That's the hardest thing, getting over that fear hump.
It really is. And, one thing has always helped me when I try to get over fear is, in any given situation, you can kind of think to yourself, well, what's the absolute worst possible outcome here? 9.9 times out of 10, the worst case scenario is really actually not that bad. So just do it. Just jump and try. And there's literally there's no difference between you and the person that did it, except the person that did it, they just did it. That's it. Yeah. That's the difference.
And they believe in themselves. I always say this, it's funny, me and my mastermind group, we have this little inside joke. Whenever one of us is stuck, we would say, what would a white man do?
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who will just believe in themselves no matter what, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I tell entrepreneurs that all the time when they're out here and they're trying to raise money, or they're trying to think through stuff. I'm like, look, man, you need to feel just as entitled to all the winnings and the spoils and the money as anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, don't think so small. Don't think that you are not entitled to any of this. This is for you just as much as it's for everybody else, anybody else. Believing in yourself really is key. Confidence comes from jumping first. You build confidence. You get confidence from doing something that you were scared to do. And then you do it. And then you're like, oh shit, I did that. And it wasn't so bad. And that's what builds confidence. Don't try to wait for confidence to go and do something. If you're scared as shit to do it while you're scared as shit. You get the confidence on the other side of that.
Yeah, that's how I was even starting this podcast. I had no idea how to podcast, so I just put a date on it. And by that date, Diishan, I definitely knew how to do a podcast, right? Because I stopped thinking about it and I just said, all right, I'm gonna just figure it out. And I think that's the biggest thing of going from dreaming to actually driving is that mindset shift and that the commitment to the execution.
Exactly. You have to just commit. Sometimes you have to ready, fire, aim instead of ready, aim, fire. Just jump. Just shoot. Just start shooting.
So where can our dream drivers find you online and learn more about Maven if they want to try out your products and get to know a little bit more about what you're up to?
Yeah, you can go to Maven.com. It's Mayvenn.com to learn about what we do and how to find really great stylists in your area and get them to do your hair for free. From Instagram, we're Maven Hair at Instagram. My Instagram personally is Diishan Diishani. Yeah, come see us.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 218 with Diishan. I hope you enjoyed hearing his dream driving journey as well as his keys to success. If you guys love this episode, please stop what you're doing right now and share it with a friend. Post it to your Instagram story, send it via text to somebody. I don't care, but please share. You can find us across the board at Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure you're using the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. Wherever you're listening, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, anywhere, the web, please make sure that you are subscribed so that every time we have a new episode, you get notified. And also, thanks to everyone who's been leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts. And remember, I said if you leave a review, you're going to hear it on the next episode. So I want to shout out Tiana, future social worker, who left us a 5-star rating and left this amazing review. She said, I've only listened to a few episodes, but please don't stop. Love the concept and the topics you're discussing. I knew I needed a new podcast to listen to, and Dreams and Drive is so inspiring. The questions you ask and the ending is always so mind-opening. I can't thank you enough. Well, thank you so much, Tiana, for listening, and I appreciate this review. And guys, these ratings and reviews do mean a lot. So if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, just sign into the app, click write a review, and help us grow our community. And last week, I got the chance to finally do the carpools that I was telling you about. And I spoke to about 15 listeners and got so much feedback, so much insight about what you all love about the show, things I could be better about, and just a lot of good stuff. So I want to thank you to everybody who took the time to sign up and made time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. If you want to know about more opportunities like this, you really need to be part of our email newsletter. I send everybody the good stuff first there. So if you want to sign up to be part of the keys and get our weekly newsletter, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 219. Bye, guys.